Thanks to the University Malaysia Perlis UNIMAP for inviting me to this international conference on Communication in Scientific Inquiry 2021. Today I'd like to speak on a topic, Digital Immigrant Students, the Future of Higher Education in Bangladesh, from the perspectives of our own experiences at East Delta University, a university that we founded back in 2008 and which I have led for the last 13 years. Let me start off by providing a functional definition of digital immigrant. A digital immigrant student is an individual who previously did not have access to edtechs, that is, the educational technologies, in their primary or secondary level of education. But now, all of a sudden, they are compelled to access technology to pursue higher education. There could be a host of reasons that explains this lack of access in earlier years, but it is safe to assume that lack of resources both at the individual and societal levels was the main deterrent to such access. Technological revolution coupled with COVID-led disruption has transformed our lives in ways unimagined even a year ago. The assimilation of digital technologies into the fabric of our everyday life has impacted how we work, socialize, shop, and even how we approach learning. The lack of uniformity in the access to digital technology has clearly contributed to a digital divide with very far-reaching consequences. Access to higher education and thus the opportunity for upward mobility can be seriously constrained by this digital divide. The nation of Bangladesh is very young, celebrating only its 50th anniversary. The nation started its journey in 1971, promising a new frontier of possibilities to its citizens. That frontier, distinctive in its promise of equality and sustainable opportunities, were to be led by education, an education that would be universal, technologically enhanced, and contemporary in its contents. It was expected to unleash Bangladesh into the 21st century. However, the truth is, advances in education and its reach have fallen short of expectation. Today, my focus is exclusively on higher education. Universities in Bangladesh had an inbuilt infrastructure and an embedded approach to education that lagged at least a decade behind the universities in the United States and Western Europe. Our classroom, both in its structural setup and in the ways instructors taught, resembled a hierarchical education system with professors lecturing and students just absorbing those lectures. The basic assumption was that students learned only by listening and internalizing the lectures delivered by their instructors. There was no recognition of the fact that students could learn differently, some by hearing, others by visualizing, and still more by doing. Whereas flipped classroom was the norm in USA and UK, where I studied years ago, equipped with multimedia educational tools, our education system in Bangladesh at that point of time was resistant to change and averse to investment in technology. In essence, we missed the opportunity to transform student learning experience from instructor-led, one-way pedagogy to peer-driven, tech-enabled experiential learning. The outlook at the primary and secondary level classrooms are even bleaker because the policymakers and development officials never considered the importance of introducing these tools and techniques for the school-going children. Then one may ask, what is the way forward? Well, the incidence of COVID-19 has brought into focus three main deficiencies that confront universities in Bangladesh, which I think must be addressed if we are really serious about reaching our promised potentials. These three deficiencies are: A, the changing global landscape of learning pedagogy that necessitated new technologies and new attitude towards teaching and learning. B, the changing global landscape of the delivery of education that promised to eliminate the divide between where the content is developed and where it is received. And C, how to leverage technology to make education accessible and affordable to the vast majority of the population. All three of these real deficiencies lie in our two-pronged inability. A, our inability to accept that students do learn differently and for which we must make different learning models available. B, our inability in investing in the technology of the future. Therefore, the adoption of online education and making sure that we have an efficient and an affordable online education should be the cornerstone of the education policy in Bangladesh. Online education has two explicit promises. First, it has the potential of educating more of our citizens than brick and mortar institutions. And secondly, it has the potential of eliminating the learning divide between us and the more economically advanced countries. Prior to COVID, the learning divide between us and the advanced countries was already enormous. COVID could make it worse unless we embrace and implement change. Change is essential to keep us relevant, and to make change happen, a paradigm shift in attitude is essential. In Bangladesh, we have recently started to observe some changes that are mostly brought about by the private universities of the country. These universities are now trying hard to reform their edtech strategies and to develop necessary expertise in order to deliver a better than before, albeit basic form of online education. As I've just alluded, qualitatively, we are still not at a level where we can claim ourselves to be capable of delivering a superior online learning experience to our students yet. But slowly, gradually, incrementally, progress is surely being made. I sincerely feel, even after this pandemic is over, the technological advancement that these universities are making now will help shape the future of education in Bangladesh. I believe technologies like artificial intelligence, augmented virtual reality are going to bring the next wave of transformative tech in education. And as universities, regardless of our individual locations, we must keep ourselves abreast of all developments happening with EdTech, because we won't be ready for what's happening in future if we do not keep up with what's happening currently around the world. In East Delta's case, being a very young university with all its limitations and constraints, and at the risk of sounding too bold, I can say, we have successfully metamorphosed into an institution where we adopted and effectively upheld the new normal of virtual learning, the flipped classroom concept, and the blended learning method. At EDU, we always stayed ahead of the curve by implementing changes proactively, by investing heavily in contemporary technology, and most importantly, training our staff and faculty in implementing those technologies. We embraced changes to teaching pedagogies and adopted tools and technologies to enhance overall learning of our students. Simply put, we have become an example for others to follow. We changed before we were forced to change. We changed because to us, failure was not an option. We found the change excruciatingly difficult, yet very much rewarding. The future of our university and the future of our nation depends upon accepting this reality. The only constant thing in education is change, and the embrace of change should become a national call to action, where universities, both public and private, rural and urban, large and small, must cooperate and work together to transform education in Bangladesh. Let that be the legacy of COVID. Let COVID help us eliminate digital migrants by making everyone a participating digital citizen. Thank you very much for listening.